Folks, I have another very interesting video lined up for you. But to begin with, I want you to listen to this news item from Nationwide News Network, and then I'll have something to say about it.
Nationwide News understands the FID made its position known in a letter sent to the Integrity Commission on September 30, 2025. That letter was sent by Principal Director of the FID, Keith Darien, to the IC's Director of Investigations, Kevon Stephenson. In the letter, the FID is clear. It says that after extensive review, it has determined there is no reasonable prospect of obtaining evidence to support any criminal charges against the Prime Minister. The FID told the Integrity Commission it does not carry out any investigation on a perfunctory basis. The word perfunctory is an adjective. It's used to describe an action done as a routine duty, but executed quickly, superficially, and without genuine care, interest, or enthusiasm. So what the FID has told the IC is that it does not launch investigations simply for the sake of doing so. The FID noted it had obtained some details of the Prime Minister's expenses which were requested by the IC, but it told the IC that the information obtained is unlikely to add any significant value to the investigation into Dr. Holness's affairs. According to the FID, its decision to not initiate a formal investigation was made before the general election which was held on September 3, 2025. The FID met with the IC on September 18, 2025, where it shared that it deliberately withheld communication about its decision until after the election so as to avoid the accusation it was attempting to influence said election. Now, in the letter sent by the FID to the IC, the FID is sharply critical of the IC's approach to its investigation into Dr. Holness's affairs. In one section of the letter, the FID says, quote, "Moreover, we have given careful consideration to the public nature of the referral. We are of the view that this approach may have been prejudicial not only to the subject of the investigation, but to the FID and potentially to the Integrity Commission itself." End quote. The FID also wrote, quote, "Please note, as a matter of course, the FID pursues very sensitive investigations, and in this particular case, we believe it was remiss of the IC not to request that the FID conduct a joint or parallel investigation around the time of the commencement of the probe, in keeping with international best practice." End quote. The FID continued, "In light of the foregoing, the FID has determined it will not initiate an investigation of the subject. The challenges in obtaining any evidence that meets the requisite standard using significant resources and time far outweigh the potential benefits of pursuing an investigation at this stage." End quote. Our sources say the Integrity Commission has since written back to the FID requesting it reconsiders its position on the Holness issue, but it's understood the FID is unlikely to respond favorably to the request. Our sources say senior investigators at the FID believe the case is not credible and are stunned at what they describe as the IC's amateur approach to the investigation. George Davis for Nationwide News.
Let me first of all thank my subscriber, Anthony White. Thank you, Anthony, for this information. And let me secondly apologize to everyone for being so late. Anthony got me the information on the day that Nationwide had made the report, June 22, 2026. But here what happened. This is not the first time that Cliff Hughes was reporting on this same matter. Last year, I seem to recall that he reported on the FID having sent a letter to the IC. And I'm inclined to think it's the same letter. But listen to this. When it got to me in a video form. And what I usually do when I get a video, I usually try and get the clip myself, because sometimes the persons may cut it. And, when they cut it in places, you may not know the context. So I like to know the context in which whatever is said is said. So I finally found the broadcast of Nationwide, the morning one that George was on, wearing that particular polo shirt he was wearing. And all the skip me, skip through, I could not find where he actually read the report. So I went back to the video. And when I went back to the video and looked closely, to my surprise, what the vlogger did was to use the clip of George on that morning program, and then took the voice that I just played you and put them together. So when I saw that George's mouth, his mouth was not moving in sync with the words and it is clearly off, I thought it was the old report from last year that this vlogger found, trying to create the impression that it was recent and use a video of George. What he did is simply take out the sound of the morning program and replace it. And I thought it was, not genuine. So I did not know that they had actually made another report. Well, I looking for something else and buck it up. And when I look at the data, I was shocked. I went and looked at what Anthony sent me. And I look at the data and say, by golly. So I had to apologize to him, but no answer me, and I don't think he forgive me. Sorry, Anthony. Sorry about that. But it was a royal trick by that vlogger. I wasn't going to carry something that I thought was old news. And that is what I thought at the time. But old time people say, better late than never. And so here I am with the story. Well, several weeks late. Now, it says FID tells IC it has no credible basis to probe Holness' statutory declarations. And based upon what Nationwide was reporting, they clearly was reading from a letter that they saw. And this now is where I have to say, no matter how we cuss those traditional media, without persons having faith in the confidentiality of these media houses, it is very likely we would not have gotten this information, right? Somebody at the FID realizing that the Integrity Commission has not certified the PM, has not said anything about the letter that they sent to them. They made no report at all of it is secret, decide to leak the information. And I have to say that that person was correct. And the reason why I say that that person is correct is because people can do bad things. And it's only when it is secret that they can get away with it. And so sometimes persons will leak information. Now, you notice the MOU is the same thing. Somebody, either at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs or the Ministry of National Security, that has access to both the MOU and the diplomatic note, they leaked it. And that is because they probably thought there was something wrong with this MOU. And they think the public needed to know. Again, I'm not going to quarrel with any such person who would do any such thing. Their heart is in the right place. Although maybe they did it. Maybe it's a rise and they did it to scandalize government. Never mind. We now know about it and we can discuss it, and we did. So the FID person who leaked the information, I want to thank them very much, because it has put a very different light on the Integrity Commission. And I have to say, and I really don't want to say it, but that Integrity Commission, just as Mark Golding said in that contribution he made last week, Tuesday, when he was talking about the Integrity Commission's annual report not being tabled.
The annual report came here. The cover letter was published, as is their practice, so that everybody knows that something has come. And we were expecting to see it tabled today, and it wasn't. And the leader of opposition business wanted to ask why, in announcements, it wasn't tabled in light of that fact. He was not allowed even to ask the question. And we object most strongly to the way in which the proceedings of this House are being conducted, because they're being conducted in what appears to be a very partisan way, a manipulative way when it comes to sensitive political issues.
So we are led to believe by Mark Golding that the reports coming out of the Integrity Commission are to be regarded as sensitive political issues. And it is apt when you consider the reporting of NNN on the FID and a letter that evidently was sent to the Integrity Commission. But folks, I am going to ask you all to be patient, because there is a twist to this report that NNN put out, and I don't even know if they were aware. But you need to buckle up, settle down, and enjoy the ride because you're going to be very, very surprised at what it is that we found out. After all of that drama last week, this week, the Integrity Commission's annual report was tabled. It's a 2025-2026 annual report. And when I look back at the NNN's report on June 22, 2026, about this letter that was written by the FID to the Integrity Commission. Now, as I said before, it's not the first time that NNN was making this report. This would have been the second time. Perhaps they had new information. That's why they decided to republish. So I checked the Integrity Commission's annual report and found no mention of the IC receiving any correspondence from the FID. As a matter of fact, there were only two mentions in the report on the FID. The first one had to do with some training course of the investigators that the UE, I believe, and the FID were jointly operating, and mentioned 2 or 3 times in the report was the MOU that was executed December 16, 2021 between the FID and the IC. That was the only mention. No mention of any letter, no update on the investigation or anything of that description. In the annual report, though, there was a mention of the court case between the Prime Minister and the Integrity Commission. And what they gave us was all of the rulings of the court that was in their favor, but they failed to mention any ruling that was in the Prime Minister's favor. And that was that. No mention at all of the follow up to the investigation that they had requested from the FID. And naturally, you're wondering why. Why is it that they would not have reported that they had received a correspondence from the FID and what was in it? This is the reason why. You're looking here at the Integrity Commissions Act of 2017, Section 53.3, and it says, until the tabling in Parliament of a report under Section 36, all matters under investigation by the Director of Investigation or any other person involved in such investigation shall be kept confidential, and no report or public statement shall be made by the Commission or any other person in relation to the initiation or conduct of an investigation under this Act. And it comes under the heading Restriction on Disclosure of Certain Matters. So this is it. This is the reason why it would not be in the annual report. So now you ask another obvious question. Well, since they had to table it in order for us to know about it, what investigation they did, why, if they received such a letter, did they not table it in the Parliament? And that is a very good question that they cannot answer, right? They can't answer it, but it would be a very good question. Why is it that it wasn't tabled? Perhaps the reason is that the case is closed. And your question may be, at what point would the case be considered closed? Remember that the matter was referred to the investigator. He did his investigation and came to certain conclusions and made a referral to the Director of Corruption Prosecution. At that point, his investigation was closed. But the case itself is only closed after the Director of Corruption Prosecution makes her ruling. And her ruling in this case was not to prosecute. The matter was then referred to the FID for further investigation. Now, what happens when the matter is referred to the FID? We're going to look into that now. Well, this is telling us something. It says, if the Financial Investigations Division finds cause after referral is made, we're speaking in general now, it triggers a completely independent financial crime investigation that bypasses the Integrity Commission's original ruling, which was, of course, not to charge, right? Because the FID operates under separate legislative powers, chiefly the Financial Investigations Division Act and the Proceeds of Crime Act. The previous no charge ruling by the Director of Corruption Prosecution does not protect the subject from new actions. Here now they're explaining further. If the FID uncovers actionable evidence, the following procedures take place. Independent criminal charges. It says the Director of Corruption Prosecution's original ruling only meant that there was insufficient evidence at that time to charge the individual with the specific corruption or statutory breaches under the Integrity Commission Act. If the FID uncovers evidence of other financial crimes, the FID can independently initiate criminal prosecutions. These charges can include, and then talk about money laundering and all that kind of something there. So that would have been the process. So it seems we all had it wrong in the first place, right? Once the matter is referred to the FID, the matter is now out of the hands of the Integrity Commission. They no longer have anything to do with it. It's FID that would investigate, and if there's any money laundering issue, tax evasion, illicit enrichment, or it says structuring or financial fraud, they are the ones who would then refer the matter to the DPP, and it's the DPP who would then prosecute. So it would not have gone back to the Integrity Commission, as we all thought, and was wondering when it is that FID going to send a report to them. So now that we know that that is the case, this letter that was read by George, what was it about? And this is where, my friends, it becomes very, very interesting. Notice, first of all, that it is a letter, not a report. So it was not an official report to the Integrity Commission telling them about the progress of the case. It was not addressed to the commissioners. It was addressed apparently to the investigator. And when you think about it, and I'm going back over them, just to verify that we are correct. What we really were reading was a letter that was written by Mr. Darien, first quarreling with the IC about the way they conducted the investigation, and then cussing them off for referring the matter to them and wasting them time. Let's go back over it again and see if I'm right. I am telling you, man, I'm telling you. Boy, we over here at 411. No easy, no, not true. Yeah, man. So this time around, we are going to read the report that Nationwide put out on the 22nd of June 2026. And it was entitled, FID tells IC it has no credible basis to probe Holness's statutory declarations. Safe so far. And I want you to remember and note what we're looking for. We're looking for the real reason why the FID would have written to the Integrity Commission. Nationwide News understands the Financial Investigations Division has told the Integrity Commission that there is no viable or credible basis for it to undertake an investigation into the statutory declarations of Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness. It's understood the FID has sharply criticized the Integrity Commission for the public nature of its probe into Dr. Holness's affairs and subsequent referral to the FID. Now, what is it that they're talking about here? You remember that we read that the Integrity Commission is not allowed under the law to discuss anything at all about any investigation. They cannot even say that they have initiated an investigation into anything. And then Justice Panton went and wrote his little letter that accompanied the investigation report and indicative ruling. Now, in that letter, Justice Panton stated, the Integrity Commission is hereby urging the Parliament to support this referral of its Director of Investigation. And here is the part that told us all that the report was indeed referred to the FID. As there can be no finality in the matter until the FID has completed its work. Had it not been for this letter that was sent to the Parliament to be tabled by Justice Panton, we would not have known that the matter had gone to the FID. We would only have heard about the referral. But here's the thing. The law says that the Integrity Commission is not supposed to discuss or report on any matter that is under investigation. But Because it was being referred to the FID, it was not the Integrity Commission Act that was affected, but the FID Act. And I will explain it to you later. I am of the opinion that Justice Panton knew what he was doing, and he put himself in a position to defend himself in case somebody noticed what he had done. The question is, why did he do it? Why did he do something that the Integrity Commission specifically asked them not to do? Why? Because he wanted the whole country to know that the Prime Minister is still under investigation. It caused a great stir and a whole heap of discussion in the society. So this was what Keith Darien was referring to when he spoke of the public nature of its probe, right? This was the only time that any mention of the matter being sent to the FID was made in public. It was that letter that was sent to the Parliament that triggered it off. That's where it started. He went on to say, the FID noted that the Integrity Commission's approach defied international best practice and risked prejudicing the investigation into 4 years of the Prime Minister's statutory filings. In other words, what he's saying, what if the FID had gone in and found a reason to bring a charge against the Prime Minister? The very fact that Panton would have done what he did, which could have led to the prejudicing of the case, which meant that the court might have flung the whole thing out on a technicality. And this after the Integrity Commission committed so many time, manpower, and money that $30 million to pay the forensic expert, all of that would have gone down the drain. And that is what Darien was criticizing. So now that we have that background that we have delved into, we are now looking at the letter through different lenses, and we may be noticing things that we didn't notice before. First of all, that the letter that was written to the IC was critical. Let us see what else Nationwide is saying. Nationwide News understands the FID made its position known in a letter sent to the Integrity Commission on September 30, 2025. Made its position known. That letter was sent by Principal Director of the FID, Keith Darien, to the Integrity Commission's Director of Investigations, Kevon Stephenson. So it was not sent to the commissioners. He sent it as one investigator to another investigator. And I noticed it before and wondered. Now we know why. In the letter, the FID is clear. It says that after the extensive review, it has determined there is no reasonable prospect of obtaining evidence to support any criminal charges against the Prime Minister. So they had looked at the evidence that the Integrity Commission would have sent to them. And he's describing it as extensive review. Them look on it careful and just look over it and pass and say, no. They went looking to see if there was something that they could prosecute the Prime Minister on. And they found nothing. The FID told the Integrity Commission it does not carry out any investigation on a perfunctory basis. The word perfunctory is an adjective. It's used to describe an action done as a routine duty, but executed quickly, superficially, and without genuine care, interest, or enthusiasm. Is the FID throwing shades at the Integrity Commission, saying that them carry out for them investigation as if it's a routine, executed quickly, superficially, and without genuine care, interest, or enthusiasm? Is that a shade that he was throwing? So what the FID has told the Integrity Commission is that it does not launch investigations simply for the sake of doing so. We are not idle over here, right? Don't waste the time. That's more or less what they will be saying. The FID noted it had obtained some details of the Prime Minister's expenses, which were requested by the IC. Folks, what you're hearing at this point is highly significant. Highly significant. Because remember the reason why the Director of Investigation said the matter should go to the FID, because he was unable to get the personal expenses from the PM to complete his calculation into whether or not illicit enrichment had gone. Now it's a good time to explain what is meant by illicit enrichment. Let us say, for argument's sake, you have a total earnings of, say, $10 million, but you are found with assets of, say, 20 million. You're going to have to show them where the money come from to buy the $20 million in assets. And if any portion of it you can't explain, then you're in problems, because the assumption will be clearly the assets could not have come from your $10 million. You have some illegal thing of going on the side, and that is what the formula that they use tell them. So once your assets and your personal expenses exceeds your lawful income, not the one that you earn on the side, that is illegal, then you may find yourself faced with a charge of illicit enrichment, and if they found you guilty, the FID can take away the extra assets. So when I read earlier that the FID had said that after extensive review, they come to the conclusion that there was no reasonable prospect of obtaining evidence to support any criminal charges against the Prime Minister, neither for money laundering, nor for tax evasion, nor for illicit enrichment, nor for fraud. The FID, having told Kevon Stephenson that they obtained some information about the Prime Minister's personal expenses, and so George is now reporting, but it told the IC that the information obtained is unlikely to add any significant value to the investigation into Dr. Holness's affairs. According to the FID, its decision to not initiate a formal investigation was made before the general election, which was held on September 3, 2025. And I needed to listen to this. The FID met with the Integrity Commission on September 18, 2025, where it shared that it deliberately withheld communication about its decision until after the election, so as to avoid the accusation it was attempting to influence said election. Gentle people, me no have to tell you what kind of bombshell this is. This is one bombshell of no mean order. Why would the FID have withheld that information from the Integrity Commission? Why? The election has gone now, it's almost a year, and still they have not communicated and told us that they're not initiating any investigation and give us a reason why. They went to the Integrity Commission and said that, we decide that we're not going to release it. Not even to the Integrity Commission. They told. They don't trust them. They don't trust them. And perhaps they've had good reason. Is it that they think that there is a leaker in the Integrity Commission leaking information to the People's National Party? Because in as much as this would favor the Prime Minister, had that information gone out to the PNP, they could use it in the election campaign to claim that Dennis Strong was put in that position in order to get the Prime Minister off. They would be crying out corruption. So they didn't trust the Integrity Commission. What does that say about them? When another agency or government don't trust you? So the only reason for not telling them is because they had reason to believe the information might get out, and they did not want it to get out, so they kept the information to themselves until after the election. Then go tell them. And to me, this is a bombshell. Now, in the letter sent by the FID to the Integrity Commission, the FID is sharply critical of the IC's approach to its investigation into Dr. Holness's affairs. So here now, for the first time, they are quoting from the letter, and this is what we wanted, the tone. In one section of the letter, the FID says, and they're quoting them, "Moreover, we have given careful consideration to the public nature of the referral. We are of the view that this approach may have been prejudicial not only to the subject of the investigation, that would be the Prime Minister, but to the FID and potentially to the Integrity Commission itself." The FID also wrote, and they're quoting them again, "Please note, as a matter of course, the FID pursues very sensitive investigations, and in this particular case, we believe it was remiss of the Integrity Commission not to request that the FID conduct a joint or parallel investigation around the time of the commencement of the probe in keeping with international best practice. In other words, what they're saying is the moment that you recognized that you needed forensic expert opinion on what you have before you, you should have called us in, even if you want to engage the foreign people in. And they're saying that you closing the investigation and then coming to ask me if we go investigate after you close the investigation. That is not in keeping with international best practice. That seems to me to be what they are saying here. So the FID, who are the experts in financial investigations in Jamaica, is criticizing the investigation that was carried out by the Integrity Commission, supporting my argument that this is a cussing out letter that they got. They're quoting FID again. The FID continued, in light of the foregoing, the FID has determined it will not initiate an investigation of the subject, that's the Prime Minister. And they went on to explain the challenge in obtaining any evidence that meets the requisite standard using significant resources and time far outweigh the potential benefits of pursuing an investigation at this stage. What requisite standard would they be talking about? I suspect they're talking about meeting the requisite standard of illicit enrichment. Remember, that is what the investigation is about. And so the FID was of the opinion, based upon what they have before them, that there would be challenges in obtaining any evidence. And don't forget what they said, at this stage. Our sources say the Integrity Commission has since written back to the FID requesting it reconsiders the position on the Holness issue, but it's understood the FID is unlikely to respond favorably to the request. Our sources say senior investigators at the FID believe the case is not credible and are stunned at what they describe as the IC's amateur approach to the investigation. And that explains why them take so long to complete them investigations. They are amateurs. And I promised you a long time when I did that video on Wheatley that I was going to give you some example of how amateurish they were. And here's the FID telling us the same thing. They were stunned at what they describe as the IC's amateur approach to the investigation. The investigation itself them talking about now, not what Panton had done. The investigation. They were not going to spend no time on it based upon their extensive look at the evidence, right? And they got some information about the Prime Minister's personal expenses. So as if they didn't get all, but they get some. And that was sufficient to tell them, look, to go carry out this investigation will be a waste of time. Based upon their formula, clearly the Prime Minister's income covers his assets. Or even if it is out, it's not out by that much that would warrant them to conduct an investigation. And for them to now go and look to see if perhaps them can catch him out somewhere, the time and the money it's going to take. And so them decided that it's not worth it. And they told them that. And they wrote back to them and I asked them, go and go look again, man, go and go look. They're so anxious and so desperate to prove their right to investigate that it is embarrassing. Because what we've had is two forensic experts, an independent one from Trinidad and the FID, coming to the same conclusion. Whatever it is that your formula said, they found no evidence to substantiate the allegations of the Integrity Commission that the Prime Minister owns assets disproportionate to his lawful income. And these bodies, they, after all, are the experts in financial crime investigations, not the Integrity Commission. So when I said that this appears to have been a letter to cuss off the IC, yes, it was a letter cussing them off in parts, calling them investigation amateurish. But it was also to tell them the reason why they decided not to initiate an investigation. After the meeting that they held with the IC September 18, they then decided to pen it, and that apparently was how the letter of September 30, 2025 came into being, to confirm that they had met with the Integrity Commission and the discussions that they had in that meeting. Well, folks, That's where I leave it for today. I want to thank everyone for joining me. If you have not yet given the video a thumbs up, please give the video a thumbs up, share, subscribe, and feel free to leave your comments in the comment section. Let me know what you think about all of this. Until next time, take very good care of yourselves and walk good.